But I will say, I will just say this honestly. The vast majority of the folks that I've seen come across our borders in California have come across historically to be farm workers.
Yeah.
Which is what we need.
Yeah.
But there are some of those folks that come across our borders that are involved in human trafficking, in the distribution of fentanyl, methamphetamine.
Man, dude.
So all of those things that's
happening, and that's been the uptick in Fresno and Clovis, right? Is all that's been starting to uptick. How do we combat that?
So you do have to have a border that is managed and controlled.
Thank you. Thank you.
But because if you don't, you're going to have an influx of drugs in your community, and that's what we see.
That's what we see
in the United States,
and that's what we're seeing, and we're seeing it in our own backyard too.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Passionate Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Kale. Man, today is an exciting day for me. All right. I'm not the biggest person into politics, right? I'm just not. But lately I found myself intertwined into a lot of different passionate topics. And today I get to dive into a lot of really passionate topics with a very good friend and a very good person and a very, very just influential person in our community, who I think is the most influential person in our community, who has just a great, great persona that I really can't wait for you guys to get to meet. Jerry DYER, the mayor, the man, the legend, the guy. Brother, thank you so much for being on the Passionate Podcast. Thank you so much for being here, man. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Casey. I love your passion.
Oh, man.
Love your enthusiasm. I wish we had more passionate people like you in Fresno that highlight some of the great things we have going on in the city.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, Jerry, because that's genuinely what we're all about here, man. It's just is showcasing a positive, reflection of who Fresno is and who we really are. And that's literally you. When I think of Jerry DYER and I think of all the things that you've been through, have gone through, have overcome, the trials and tribulations, we're going to get back to the past a little bit, just from what got you to be where you're at today. But man, you have gone through a lot. And you've taken a lot of targets on your back. You've taken a lot of heat, and you are doing things for this community that is on a different level that no other mayor has actually done for our community. So first and foremost, man, it's an honor to have you on this podcast. It's an honor to be here in front of you, to just have these conversations with you, to really open up this dialogue to our community, man. So I'm excited, man.
Appreciate it.
Let's open it right up, man.
Well, let's do it.
What made you want to get involved into politics? Like, not even from like being the chief, right? But like, you had to make a decision, right? There had to have been some sort of emotional connection to want to actually really be the mayor of Fresno in a world that is crazy in politics right now.
Yeah. Like, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, it's kind of wild. What made you want to step into that realm?
Number one, I didn't want to.
There we go.
I hate politics. I cannot believe I'm in a political role right now as a mayor. But after serving, 40 years in the police department and the last 18 as a police chief, which those are hard years, dog years, I had no desire to get involved in any other job, especially politics. And I told my wife for many, many years, just wait till I retire. We'll travel, we'll see the world, spend time with the kids, grandkids, and so I had no desire to be the mayor of the city. Although some people along the way over the years have, asked me if I would consider it. And I knew that the mayor at that time was going to run again for a second term. And so we're friends. I wasn't going to run. It was a good reason for me to say, no, I'm not.
Of course.
But he decided not to. And I had made the comment along the way that, hey, if this Mayor Brand decides not to run,
that's right,
maybe I would.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I lived out in the county. Which means, you can't run from there. You got to live in the city.
Live in the city.
But we had put our house up for sale. We were going to move in the city to be close to my grandkids. And then on a Sunday, I remember we got notified. Our house went into escrow. And it was the following day, Lee Brand called me and said, hey, I decided not to run.
Yeah.
And I think you should.
God has a funny way of doing that, doesn't he?
I knew without a doubt God had his hand in this. And I went home and I told my wife, I said, what do you think? And she started laughing and said, I knew you were running for mayor when we put our house up for sale.
That is hilarious. So Ironically, it's kind of a thing. It's a funny thing. I do have a lot of people that come in like, hey, you should run for Clovis mayor. You should run for Clovis mayor and this and that. And I just have no desire. And when I tell my wife, she laughs. She's like, oh my God, you'd be the best.
I'll endorse you right now on your show.
Listen, I see the scrutiny and I see the chastisation. I see the subjective nature of what you have to go through, man. I applaud you for what you take. I applaud any politician for what they go through because either way, left, right, you're going to be attacked in today's world. And I wish that it wasn't like that, but social media has created this platform to be able to attack people without having to show their face. Yeah. And that has really changed a lot in the way that we market for our campaigns.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the endorsement, though.
Anything can be said on social media. It doesn't have to be true.
Yeah.
Right? There's not no one out there doing fact check.
Nope.
And you're right. You can hide behind whatever you want to hide behind and say what you want. And one thing I've learned about whether it was as a police chief or as a mayor, you got to grow some thick skin along the way. It doesn't mean you're not sensitive.
Correct.
You don't hurt or your family doesn't hurt from comments. But you got to get to the point where as long as you're doing the right thing for the right reason, it really doesn't matter what anybody else says.
That is very powerful words because I've had to learn that the hard way. So in 40 years of my existence, I finally learned to not care what people think. And that took me a long time to get to that point. And I think there's a sense of freedom when you can really just not care. And I see you do that better than anybody that I know in this town.
Thank you.
And it's admirable and it's respectable because you take a lot of stuff for no reason sometimes.
I actually I'm more sensitive to when people talk about my city than I am about me.
Amen, bro.
And, sometimes you'll hear people that have left Fresno and come back for a little bit. They'll put something out. I saw it here recently, some negative things about Fresno, either downtown or the air quality or whatever it is. And I say, you just don't know Fresno.
You just don't, thank you. You just don't know Fresno.
Yeah.
And I've gone to LA, Hollywood. I've lived in different areas of my life, and I always come back to Clovis and Fresno. This is home.
Yeah.
And if you know Fresno like that, then you know Fresno like that. And I believe you know Fresno like that.
I spent my whole life here. I love this city, everything about it, even the bad. Because some of the bad.
Let's dive into that a little
makes
bit.
You good. Right?
And I think that set you up for where you're at today, right? I mean, being the police chief,
true,
and taking the kind of heat that this country has put on police officers, right? And making this big scene and this big media scene about making sure that we watch our police officers, and you were under a lot of scrutiny, right? And not of your own merit, but because of what was going on with the rest of the country, right? I mean, you have to understand that when you are the chief of police, you're the guy, bro. I mean, how did you deal with a lot of that, going through some of those times with that type of subjugation of being the police chief and making sure that your guys, don't need to name any names or get into anything like that, but like some of the guys have not been perfect, and you have had to make decisions to put the right people to protect our city. And I think that's so important, and it's important to hear about that.
Well, it's hard to keep a balance of maintaining the trust of the community and the support and the confidence, and at the same time maintaining the support and the trust and confidence of your troops. And so what that requires is you to be very transparent. When your cops screw up, you got to be the guy that goes out and says, hey, the officer made a mistake or whatever the case is. And oftentimes as a leader of the organization, you have to be willing to take the hit for them.
Yeah.
And at at the same time, a community can be very fickle. I've seen the community love cops. I've seen the community hate cops.
I know. And
it just depends on what they perceive an officer did right or wrong.
And it's all based on perception, not the reality.
Based on perception.
And I think that's where social media twists a lot of things and twists narratives to where it makes some cops look bad, and you got to take the heat of that. So I got to commend you. You've done a great job because which by the way, we do like a fun service here at the bodybuilding where we give all of our police officers and law enforcement major discounts, and we have a lot of the officers coming in, and they all definitely don't even talk about any chief. They talk about you.
Oh, thank you.
They say Jerry DYER is our guy, and I got to tell you, when I think of Jerry DYER, and it's kind of funny. There's a clip in the Mayor of Kingston. Have you watched that show?
No.
Oh, man. Jeremy Renner. I actually am in talks with having him come on the show. and he plays the mayor of Kingston, right? And he's not really the mayor. he's a very, very, very underground, but he runs the show, right? He runs the whole show, and he does it in a way that's very unique and unorthodox, but he gets it done.
Yeah.
And he makes sure that there's peace in between all kinds of other walks of life. And when I think of Jerry Dyer, that's what I think. I think a guy that has stature, that has respect from the community and from the streets, right? Which I think is very important too, because you're out there. I see you go out there. I see you work with the homeless. I see you work with crime and people that are in gangs and kids that are on the streets. I mean, I really see you out there and do that. And I think that is so important to make sure you're navigating that road too. When you see all that and you're seeing the type of homelessness that's in, I mean, we can say California, but even just in Fresno.
Right.
I mean, I know that you're trying to really clean that up. How hard is that when you're trying to clean up something that doesn't want to be cleaned up?
Well, it's hard anytime you're having to deal with people that, number one, it was best said here recently, about 50% of the people out there on our streets that are homeless, unsheltered, they don't know they have a problem.
Yep.
They think where they're
crazy.
at in their life is where they should be at in their life. They don't think they need help, so they're not willing to ask for help. Fortunately, we have some good outreach workers. I created a team called Heart.
Yeah, and I've never seen that anywhere else, by the way. Yeah. I looked that up, and I love it, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. You got to have people out there that are, we call them homeless assistance response team. They're out there offering services, offering shelter. We purchased 7 motels now, converted them into emergency shelter, partnered with our housing authority on 4 more. One of those has since been converted to permanent housing. But in the last, since 2021, when you look at how many people that we've sheltered in Fresno, well over 7,000 people that we've put into shelter, over half of those have now transitioned into permanent housing or been reunited with family, but exited a life of homelessness. Now, we still have about 1,400
A
more,
lot.
right?
A lot. I know the head of your department that does the Hearts. He comes here. So him and there's another female that helps him too, but I don't like to name names, but I will tell you, they are very passionate about that program.
They are. They're good.
And I will tell you, it actually is heartbreaking to see how many homeless people don't even want the help. Yep. I mean, that has got to be so difficult. And in a community like this, where you're putting together programs that are not being put together anywhere else, and you have people that are passionate about it, and they're not taking the help. What do you contribute that to?
Well, I think there's just a lot of folks out there today that are working with the homeless. Poverello House, the Mission, Turning Point, a number of groups. They're passionate, right? Yeah. But here's what I found. Sometimes people get comfortable in the environment in which they're used to, and that's being out on the street. So sometimes you have to create an environment that's more uncomfortable for them when they're on the streets, so they'll choose another path. And that's what we're trying to do in Fresno. We're not allowing people to stay.
I think that's a great idea, is make people uncomfortable on the streets. I think that's a great, Jerry, that's probably the best idea I've ever heard as far as getting homelessness off the streets, is making it uncomfortable for them to be on the streets.
Yeah, and sometimes, unfortunately, that involves arresting them. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, right?
Yep, it's uncomfortable.
But sometimes that has to happen. That's not your go-to.
It's not, but I commend you for that, because that's a tough decision to make for human lives, right, that are out there. And you're doing something to help get them some motivation to get off the streets. And if they don't want the motivation, then it's time to get a little uncomfortable. I will tell you right now that I would not be a successful business owner if I didn't understand how to control uncomfortable situations.
That's right.
And when I'm able to control uncomfortable situations, it makes me stronger, it makes me more efficient, it makes me more of a leader. Yep. Right. And so I think that's exactly what you're doing to be the leader as you are.
I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and thanked me for, at a time when either I arrested them or one of their my officers that arrested them, put them in jail, put them in an environment where they finally woke up, had an awakening, and said, I need to change my life. And today they're productive. I had a guy yesterday. I came back from the airport, or went through the airport, came back from Las Vegas, and a guy stopped me, and he lives in Oklahoma. And he says, are you Mayor Dyer? And I said, yes. He said, I've been following you on social media. And he said, you're not going to remember this, but when I was a teenager, you arrested me. And he ended up going to Valley Teen Ranch, was in the program for a long period of time. And he says, it changed my life. You're the only guy that's ever arrested me in my life and never got arrested again. And he said, today I live in Oklahoma. And he said, I own several real estate, investments, property. And he said, so I just want to say thank you. Shook my hand. gave me chills. I was like, oh
Bro,
my
you
God,
give me chills, man.
at the airport.
But I think that right there, I think that's your purpose, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're the mayor, right? And you get a lot of ups and downs and roller coasters that go left and right. But when you have moments like that, that's got to be everything for you.
Makes it all worth it. And we're doing that every single day with our homeless population. People that are turning their life around. That's what we called it, Project Off Ramp. When we had a lot of people.
I remember.
We're providing them an off ramp from the freeway.
Yep.
Off ramp from a life of homelessness. On ramp to a better life, and that's what we're doing every day.
I wish other places in California took notes, but I mean, that's how we're gonna go with that one right there. Okay, but anyways, I just feel like you're doing such a great job, and I think it's a hard job. You're combating with people that don't want to be moved, and they're enjoying their drugs, they're enjoying their life, and it's hard to come in and interrupt that as the mayor. But also as the mayor, you have 90% of the rest of the population that you also have to take care of. And when you have drugs and needles on the street like that, you cannot take care of the kids that we need to be taken care of and protect the right way. So you have to make those hard decisions sometimes to make it a little uncomfortable. So man, I applaud you for that.
Yeah, and you know what it's not just that. You have business owners in our city that have been super patient.
Yep.
They've allowed homeless people, not allowed them, but over the period of time, homeless people have created problems for their business, scared off their customers, defecate on the front of their business.
That is crazy.
Urinate on they steal their copper.
Theft everywhere. We're going to get there too, brother. We're going to get there next.
And they're the ones that have suffered. And so we're the ones that they entrust to fix it. And so we're trying to fix it.
Well, I appreciate that. And there's a lot that needs to be fixed right now. And I'll tell you that from just personal experience.
Yep.
We'll get into the small business up here in a second, but it does move to a kind of sensitive subject, for me. So I actually, kind of funny, I know a lot of the business owners locally. And so I gone down the street to get gas at the local gas station, right? And this was maybe a month and a half ago. And I see this guy, and he's definitely doesn't speak any English, and he's like scoping things out. I'm just watching him. And he's stalking this old lady right like in the heart of Clovis, man, right down the street. And he starts running. I'm like, oh no, this is happening right now. And of course my Batman instincts go off. And so I chase this dude, not knowing anything about it. And everyone's watching, and I'm chasing this dude down because he snatched a purse and went down. So I take him down, and he's put up a little fight. So I make sure that I end that, and everything's good. And so the police come, and they're like, they check the videos, watch everything, and they're like, hey man, you did a great job. I said, so like, what's going to happen to him? And they're like, we don't know. We're just going to take him in. He's not a citizen. He's not a citizen. He's not a legal immigrant, right? So he's illegal here in our backyard. And I asked these police officers, and they're like, dude, you don't even understand. They're getting dropped off here in the droves in our own backyard.
Yeah.
Like crime, like purse snatchings, home invasions, all here in Fresno and Clovis. Is that a common problem right now? Because that's that happened right across the street in the heart of a community that I just never would see that happen to. And I feel like, is that a thing, or is that I don't know, right? Because you see it on the mainstream media. I don't know what to believe sometimes. Like, are we experiencing some problems like that with illegal immigration?
I think what you end up with, combination of both. We have our share of homegrown criminals.
Correct.
People always ask me, do gangs come from other cities or other countries?
Good question.
And I always say, no, we do a pretty good job of growing up our own gangs in Fresno. And so, and the same with criminals. But we do have folks that obviously come across our borders that as human beings, they get involved in criminal activity too, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, I would just say this honestly. The vast majority of the folks that I've seen come across our borders in California have come across historically to be farm workers.
Yeah.
Which is what we need.
Yeah.
But there are some of those folks that come across our borders that are involved in human trafficking, in the distribution of fentanyl, methamphetamine.
Man, dude.
So all of those things that's
happening. And that's been the uptick in Fresno and Clovis, right? Is all that's been starting to uptick. How do we combat that?
So you do have to have a border that is managed and controlled.
Thank you. Thank you.
But because if you don't, you're going to have you're going to have an influx of drugs in your community, and that's what we see.
That's what we see
in the United States.
And that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing it in our own backyard too. Yeah. So I'm hoping we can definitely combat that and try to, figure out a way to stop that from infiltrating something that you've worked so hard to protect. Because that's not even your own, you're not on the borders. You know what I mean? It's just like, how do you combat that as the mayor, right? How do you, what do you do? Yeah. Straight up, what do you do? What do you do with illegal immigration that's happening in Central Valley that's not even on the borders?
Well, you hope the borders are controlled. Number one, we know they haven't been. And hopefully they the goal is for them to get better. Secondly, you have to deal with whatever issues that you're confronted within a community as a result of that. But it is important to control your borders and to control what comes in. And some borders are better than others. I've been to our California border. They do a pretty good job, quite frankly. But if you go to Texas, Arizona,
it's pretty bad.
Borders, it's not so well.
It's not
well
good.
Managed.
It's not good at all. Well, I appreciate that, and I wish you the best too, because that's not easy with dealing with problems that are not actually internally your problems, right? They just became your problems because you're the mayor, right? So I can understand the difficulty of that, and then having to be like, okay, so how do I deal with this problem, right? Yeah. That's a conversation that you have to have with a higher power.
Yeah. Well, and you got to make sure you have enough resources on the street.
And that was my next thing too.
I've added 88 police officers in the last 3 years. Where prior to that, we didn't add a handful every year, if that.
That's amazing.
But it's important to have enough officers on the street. And
how do you screen? How do you screen the police officers right now? Because I think that's a good question for people.
You do a psychological assessment. We have used to be a polygraph, and now it's a voice stress analyzer to determine truthfulness. Background check.
I like that.
But even with all of that, you're still going to have people come into the profession that because we're dealing with imperfect people, right? But you try to screen as best you can, hope that you get the best cops. And I got to tell you, I think we've done a pretty good job of that in Fresno. But I will say at times, you'll get and they come in, they'll come in twos or threes where you'll have a cop, make a serious mistake where you got to fire him, it becomes public, and then you have a second one, you have a third one. People start saying, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And then you may not have anything for a year.
And this is an honest question. Like I'm not trying to poke the bear or anything. This is an honest question. Do we have some sort of like DEI type of thing put in place for Fresno County, or do we do stuff like that? Do we hire based up on DEI requirements? Or
the goal is always to have a police department.
I'm just curious because
reflective of the community. But there isn't a thing where you got to say we got to have a certain percentage of this race or this gender. But the reality is you want to make sure.
You want the best of the best.
You want the best of the best.
And I think that's important.
And fortunately, what we're getting today, at least with the Hispanic population, we get a lot of Hispanic people apply.
It's great.
A lot of Asians, a lot of...
it's amazing.
A lot of females. But what we have a hard time with is getting African Americans to apply for law enforcement.
Really?
Because of the stigma.
The stigma.
Of law enforcement.
Is there... I can't just because I've been here my whole life. I don't see a stigma with Fresno Clovis Police because you've done such a great job with that. You really have. You really have. You've done an amazing job with the police and even as chief. It's one of those things where I'm like, we want right now and during these times, we want the best out there, right? And it's one of those things where I was just curious if we do put constraints on who we actually hire in our force.
Yeah, I can speak when I was a chief. I never lowered the standards for our hiring because I knew you could lower your standards for hiring. And you can bring someone in regardless of race,
bring down
or gender,
your whole
and you lose
department.
the trust of a whole community.
So
it's better to keep higher standards. And as you're going out and recruiting, you have to recruit. In a lot of different areas, whether it's from the military, from Fresno State, from other agencies, but there's a way to do it and do it right.
Good, and I think you are. And I really that's was just a genuine curiosity question, and I'm glad to hear that you have all things considered put into place, and not just hiring based on gender, race. I think it's important to just find the best person for a position like that when you're dealing with law and enforcement and our community. I think it's important to make sure the best of the best gets hired.
And I will tell you that no matter what ethnic group or racial group you talk to, that's what they want to.
Amen, man.
That's what they want to.
All right. That's what I love to hear. Well, Jay, one of my favorite things about you and what you've done, for our community in the past few years, we're going to get into the downtown, but small business, right? I'm a small business owner, and we've been struggling. And I speak for a lot of people, and I'm watching I just made a post earlier today. I saw one of my very good friends, Bob Sullivan, and his wife, Nicole. They just shut down the Starving Artist Bistro. And I mean, just an amazing, amazing restaurant. And he's one of 5 in the past 7 days. We got local businesses that are going under left and right. Crave Cookies, bro. Crave Cookies. Can you believe that? Crave Cookies. I mean, there's so many businesses that are shutting down their shops, their stores, their locations. And, for me, I'm like, man, I'm watching all these fundings go to other countries from, obviously our government. And we're funding Ukraine. We're funding all these other people. We're funding illegal immigrants for first-time home buyers, for giving them cards to come to our country. And then you got Americans. They can't even afford groceries, right? Local, our community, our inflation is so high, our gas is so high that it's constricting, and people are feeling it now. It's not that people can't afford it because, people are making good money, but they're feeling it because the dollar is less value. It doesn't go as far. So it's constricting so many people, and now people are going out of business. What are you going to do to combat that right now? We are on hard times. I mean, we're struggling. As a small business, we do so much for our community. Like, I'm trying to do some outreach programs for after-school programs, like just to try to help. There's so much that I'm trying to just do, but at the end of the day, what are you trying to do to help the small businesses? Because you are so pro small business, and we're hurting right now.
Well, first off, we have to first recognize in government. I don't care if it's local government, state government, federal government, the economic engine of a local community.
It's all small business.
Small business, whether it's restaurants or
Thank you
any
for
type
saying
of
that.
service.
It's so important to know, and I hope our viewers understand that. Is that the economic value of our community is based around small business. If we're successful, we pour that success back into the community. Right. That is what small businesses do.
And I think the other thing that people don't realize is how hard it is to operate a business. The first 2 years,
Preach it, Jared.
First 2 years of anyone establishing a new business, oftentimes they don't have the right capital. Yeah, that's number one. Or maybe they don't have the know-how to operate a business. So, we've spent a lot of time doing technical assistance for new business owners, making sure they understand how to operate a business.
Yes.
And then the second thing is I just set aside in this budget $500,000 for new businesses
Sign me up.
that will help them, right? And
sign us up.
And I just spent over the last year $2 million for small businesses for facade improvement programs. And I just did another $400,000 for downtown. And because sometimes businesses, they're not able to put money into the front of their business.
We're hurting.
Oftentimes it's the facade, the way your business looks, your signage, et cetera, is going to attract people there. So we want to do that for them so they can attract customers. The other thing is obviously passing some local ordinances that will prevent the homeless from occupying the front of their business.
Yes, that's a big deal.
And making sure that customers don't get scared away. And really helping businesses open their business quickly, because time is money in a business world. And if you're not removing some of the obstacles, accelerating the permitting process for business, then what's happening is businesses perhaps are having to start paying rent before the renovations are done. I have several friends that have to go through this with the city of Fresno. And I intervene, or my chief of staff intervenes, my city manager, making sure that we can expedite them opening. I just dealt with a business owner in Northwest Fresno. He's opening up a high-end restaurant.
Good.
He got frustrated, rightfully so.
It's hard.
By some of the things that were occurring. Well, we set up a meeting. I brought in all of our folks from the various departments, and they made through that they were able to take care of everything that he had. And that meeting was less than 2 weeks ago. He's getting his permits today. So
amen.
That is what we have to do for small businesses. The other thing is, when you look at these businesses that are suffering, broken windows, stolen copper.
The theft is bad, man. It is, Jerry. And as a police chief, man, Don't get me started on that, brother. That's a whole different conversation. you already know. It's like, it's a
But here's the good
subject.
news.
Yeah.
Prop 36 is going to pass in November. That's going to severely modify the prior Proposition 47 that really.
So it's going to eradicate 47.
It will, and it will strengthen the criminal justice system, and hold people, start holding criminals accountable for some of the things that they've been able to do. You have to remember,
bro. I mean, I'm watching criminals. Like I said, the guy that I stopped from a person, the cop literally told me. I don't want to say it out loud, but I mean, straight up, he said he's going to be let go in 2 days. Like,
well, I don't even think 2 days.
No,
that day
it wasn't. He was probably out that day, and I mean that's a tough pill to swallow when we're facing crime like that right in our own backyard. Man.
So I'll tell you what I've seen in the last 2 years. I've seen people that had an attitude of focusing on holding cops accountable, to finally
holding
criminals accountable.
Yes,
and I think that's where we're heading. I just hope
we have
continue to head that way, right?
Accountability is everything. If we are not holding the criminals accountable for what they're doing, then what is this?
And that's why you'll see it. The other thing is PG&E.
Oh boy! Oh,
we just lost that road. I have a friend of mine. He owns 3 restaurants.
Can we pull up my PG&E monthly bill? Because if I just showed that, I think it would make people.
I had a business owner. He has 3 restaurants, and I think for the month of July, his bills ended up being like $40,000.
It's insane
for 1 month.
It's insane. I don't know how they get away with it.
I have fought PG&E along the way since 2020. They've raised their rates 14 times, now 15, and over a 70%.
How do we get that to change, Jerry? I mean, I'm so glad you. Thank God. Thank you for bringing that up, because this is such a big deal for so many people right now, not just business owners, but our Fresno County residents. I mean, PG&E, and I have a lot of friends and family that work for them, and I just say, hey, you're welcome. I'm paying your salary this month. So, it's bad. It's not
Jerry. The workers. It's not the people.
No, it's not. No, I'm giving them. Right? I'm being funny, but
the fact is, I think what was their profit last year? $2.24 billion.
Billion. And we're out here barely even to pay our PG&E.
Yep. So that's a challenge for us. We just lost somebody we were recruiting to come in who would have hired hundreds of employees, decided not to come to Fresno because of PG&E.
That's amazing.
They compared the rates.
We need someone like that.
And they could go to another state. And when you look at how much in the state of California taxes are, energy rates are, it's hard to do business here.
California is hard, bro.
And so you're getting people that are leaving. And here's our challenge.
And businesses are leaving too.
And here's our challenge. Like in the Bay Area or LA, maybe they can afford to lose some businesses.
Yeah.
We cannot, man.
One. This is our backyard.
Yeah.
This is everything. Most people from Fresno grew up here. We don't leave Fresno. Like, we try, but we come back. Fresno is everything. Fresno is home. And when I say home should mean a safe spot. And I felt that way my whole life. And man, the past couple years, ever since COVID changed a lot of things in California. And I gotta tell you, man, you have really advocated for Fresno, and I wish that we could have someone that stepped up a little bit higher for California, because California has been really, really, really tough, and excruciating for a lot of business owners to just get a little bit of success.
Yeah, a lot of challenges, and a lot of challenges there with businesses. So, and I can talk about some of the things we're doing downtown.
Please, that's where I want to go to next. Yes,
to accelerate it. So we know that many, many years ago, our downtown was booming. And then we had sprawl, where not only did we had people that, as a result of the freeway expansions, some of the urban sprawl, we had people that, relocated to the fringes of our communities, whether it was Clovis or all the way north. And so downtown died.
Yeah,
Chinatown died.
It did.
So now we're trying to bring it back, and it's really, really hard to bring it back. So some of the things that have been done, opened up Fulton Mall to where it is, Fulton Street. We have an incredible brewery district now.
And I know that the Tillians are really trying to get some stuff going on out there. I don't know if that's been put on pause again, because there's some development going on. I mean, I would love to see downtown go. And the reason why, we've been partnered with the Grizzlies for so many years, and I love the Grizzlies. And I loved, I mean, that stadium, that's not a single A stadium.
Oh, no,
we need to, I don't know what we got to do, but we need AAA. And I mean, we have the stadium and the we have the audience to do it too. We're just not backing it in that area.
Well, fortunately, last year, the Baker family sold to Diamond Baseball.
Diamond Baseball, that's right. Yes.
And they've bought about 32 farm teams now. That's our best chance to get AAA baseball.
I love it.
And then the other thing we have to do is we have a downtown that does very well 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but we don't have enough people there to sustain that vibrancy after 5 and on weekends. So we have to build housing. So we have the old J.C. Penney's building. That's getting ready to break ground probably by either the end of the year or first of next year. It's going to have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units there. We have a student housing project that's going to be on the backside of the stadium.
I think that's going to be amazing.
At 400, going to be over 400 people living there, right in the heart of the brewery district.
That'll be great because especially for schooling. I mean, that'll be fantastic.
So too. we have a lot of things going on down there. Both of those projects slated to break ground here shortly. We need about 10,000 people living downtown.
Yep.
To
just facilitate
the momentum.
Yep.
Right.
Get the economy going out there.
We need the Laugh Factory downtown. We're working on that still. We haven't given up on that.
I mean, that's been a project for a while, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be really cool. And things like that, entertainment, fun things like that to create the environment. Because, when you go to San Diego, you go to different places like that, you have a downtown that's just, it's downtown. Yeah. You have a nightlife, you have the facade of it, you have the energy. And, a good person, my boy Lewis, man, that guy's nightlife. Man, that's my guy, man.
Yeah, so I've been trying to get Lewis downtown, and he's
going to Nashville now, man. We got to bring him back to Cali.
He's not
come
going
on,
to Nashville.
Man.
He's not going to Nashville. He brought Nashville to Fresno.
No, exactly. That's my boy. That's family right there. I literally had him on last time, and we talked a lot about this too.
I've known Lewis for a lot of years.
He's a great person to really help bring that back. And I think you're on the right track. I think if you get a Laugh Factory, but I think you're doing something different that no one else has tried is by doing some housing development.
Yeah.
I think by getting people. I mean, I've always said, if you want business, you got to put butts in the seats.
That's right.
You need butts in the seats. You need patrons. If you don't have patrons, you're not going to do business.
Yeah. And you know what happened? Downtown, we have a downtown partnership. Just hired a guy that's one of the premier, investment guys in the nation and beyond. He's done a lot of, where he goes out and he'll recruit tenants. Could be, whoever, Bass Pro.
Yeah.
But he recruits these.
Big commercial, big commercial.
And he's been held on not just a retainer. He's been hired by downtown to do that. So he's meeting with all of the business owners. Where are the vacancies? Identifying some of the businesses that would be potential tenants in those. So I really think we're going to see big dividends from that as well. So concerts at Chichancy.
I was just going to say,
15 to 20,000 people coming to those.
I was just going to say that's very highly economical for us all.
Yeah. So downtown's coming around. People have mixed feelings about high-speed rail. Is it going to happen? Not going to happen?
I think it got more political. I don't think anyone knows. Let's be honest.
We don't.
No one knows anything about the high-speed rail.
Yeah.
Okay, I have buddies that work on it, and they've been working on it, and it's almost like an inside joke.
Part of it is it's taken so long.
That's the problem.
And people have lost their faith in whether it's going to happen or not.
Correct.
I'm an optimist. I hope it does for Fresno. And let's see.
What do you think? What do you really think about it?
I think that they're going to have in 2031 they're going to have Merced to Bakersfield open. That doesn't do a lot for California, for the Valley.
Not for the Valley,
I do believe you got a private train coming from Las Vegas to Kern County, and if it wasn't for the Olympics in L.A.,
right?
I would be a little skeptical of that, but I think they have everything to gain from doing that to L.A. And there's a 51 miles between where high-speed rail stops and that private train.
The private train, right?
And it's flat land. I got to believe they'll figure that out. And we could be connected to Vegas.
And we could be connected to Vegas.
Before LA, before San Jose.
And I know everyone in this town. We are the heartbeat of agriculture country. Everyone loves Vegas. I mean, everyone loves. So you had that. That's highly economical for us.
It will be.
And it brings revenue into places that we wouldn't have had revenue. But we won't have that unless we get that open.
Yep.
And I mean, that's been a bane of our existence just because it's so.
We've had street closures downtown for over 7 years now.
Yep.
So
7 years.
And now we're starting to get them open. They do what's called grade separations where, you're either going to build an overpass or an underpass so that we no longer get stopped by trains over there all the way through from all the way through Fresno. So those grade separations some have been completed, the others will be completed the next 2 years.
There you go.
So you don't have to stop for training anymore.
But I think that's perfect. I think that's a step in the right direction.
And it was all paid for by High Speed Rail, which is a good thing.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
I know we're running short on time. I know, and I always overstretch, and I apologize to the team. But as we close here, I'm just really excited for the future of Fresno because of you, right? If it wasn't for you, we'd have a lot of questions, right? And I think I have a million questions for you that we can talk a different time, and I'll have you come back again. But I'm excited for your next term. What is going to separate you from this to the previous, right? I just want you to give me the best Jerry Dyer pitch that you can give me, right? Because with all the audience that's watching right now, they're relying on you. Our families are relying on you, brother. Like, there's so much at stake here that sometimes I don't think people actually realize they need to get up out of their couch and they need to come vote for Jerry Dyer. And not that you're going to lose or anything, but I'm just saying, I want them to understand you on a human level, on a human nature, who you are as a person and what's going to separate you from the last term to this term, because I think this term is a legacy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think this is a legacy for you, and I want you to explain that.
Thank you, Case. Well, the good news is I got 80% of the vote in March.
I already know.
So I'm done.
That's like I said.
So I don't have to run in
You don't have to run. It's already done.
But I think that's what demonstrates that 80% of the people, at least those who voted, liked the direction we were going as the city. So they're going to see much more of that. And it's going to be accelerated from our beautified Fresno, our revitalization of downtown, the efforts we've done to address the homeless population. Well, in 4 years, when you look around the city, it's my desire for people to say, where did the homeless go? Just like they do today when they drive on our freeways. 4 years ago, we had 650 people living on our freeways.
Or you couldn't drive across the freeway without seeing a tent or something like. I'm telling you,
we don't have anyone living on the freeway today.
And I'll tell you, well, occasionally off the 180, I will say, if I'm going golfing somewhere, and I'm taking one, I'm like, oh, there's a tent. But I promise you, on my life, it has been so much different and so much better on a level that I don't think Fresno's ever seen before. But I also don't think you get enough credit because I don't think people understood how bad the homelessness problem was in Fresno.
Yeah, and here's what I've learned about it. A homeless person anywhere is a homeless person everywhere. So if a business owner sees one homeless person, he'll say homelessness is out of control.
You're right. But it's because it's that rhetoric right there.
So what we have to do is really get to a point where people don't see homeless anywhere in our community. Yeah. Or if they do, they're not there very long. Yeah. And that's my commitment. That's my promise to the people of Fresno. We're going to get ourselves out of this housing crisis. They're going to see more crime reduction.
That was my next question. Are we going to see some crime reduction and small businesses? What are we going to do there?
2021, murders have gone down in this city by over 60%.
The mayor, right? The mayor. That's what I'm talking about.
Shootings have gone down over 70%.
Yes, sir.
And we're not done yet.
That's what I'm talking about. We're not done yet.
So public safety, beautification of the city, sheltering our homeless population, revitalizing downtown. You're going to continue to see that, invest in our youth, and just a lot more people feeling good about Fresno.
I really do want to see a lot more invested into our youth. I mean, we need better education systems. We're bottom 5, in Fresno County, yep. and I'm genuinely putting together some pillars, like these pillars of characterization for after school programs, and I'm doing it because I don't even have time to do it. I'm doing it because I care. Sure. I care about the kids, and I want to do something that's different. I want to help. I want to involve myself in the communities to make a difference and make an impact. I have never seen. I have a 4-year-old son that's non-verbally autistic, so I am down the rabbit hole like you can't imagine. I am in there for health. I am in there for our pharmaceuticals. By the way, no one gives you credit for this, but because of what you've done for the streets, and I'm very passionate about this. You have done something so great where 20 years ago, there was an opioid pandemic, and we still face a lot of problems with the fentanyl and other things that are coming in. But I have seen leaps and bounds of the suicides and the rhetoric of the opioids and the pill problems all over. Still a problem, but it's decreased a lot and by a lot, and no one's giving you credit for that. And I think that's what you're doing with the streets. And I wanted to make sure I say that because that's a very passionate thing for me as a holistic, natural wellness facility that does vitamins, NAD, IV therapy, all natural therapies.
Sure,
right. That's seeing health actually improve in our community too. And I think that's a big thing that we need to focus on too, is the health of our youth.
Yeah.
The health and well-being of our youth and making sure that they are protected and taken care of first, because that is the future of all generations, and I want to make sure they're protected. And that's obviously what I'm very, very, very passionate about.
Well, I think what we need more, Casey, in Fresno are folks like you that are passionate, that care about your community.
You get me emotional, man.
That are willing to do, you know,
I'm trying, man.
A lot of people get focused on just making money, or they get focused on their family.
Yeah.
But when you get focused on your community,
That's it.
That's really what becomes contagious. And one thing about passion, you know, skepticism, you know, being skeptic, that can be contagious.
Yep.
Being an optimist, being passionate, that's contagious. You're those things. We need more of you, more energy, more passion in Fresno, because when that starts happening, people start doing things. And people start feeling better about where they live.
Yes, thank you, Jerry.
I want Fresno to be a place where people choose to live, not
so
where
do
they
I.
have to live.
Amen to that. And I will tell you, you know what else is contagious? Courage.
Yep.
Pride.
Yeah.
Taking a stance,
Yeah.
fighting for our community, and standing tall of things that we believe in, that we know is right for our kids and for the future. And I applaud you for that, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Because if you can continue to be courageous through your journey, you will impact and you will influence more lives than I think you could even imagine. You had that one kid that came to you and said, because you arrested him, changed your life. And I've heard that story before, by the way. I've heard that from someone else before. That wasn't even from you. I heard that before. You are going to do more of that in every day and every hour of every second that you are our mayor. And I am proud to know that you are at the helm of that.
Thank you.
So please do not stop doing what you're doing, because we need all of it. We need all the help that we can get right now, Jerry. So please continue to do the things that you're doing, because I see it and I feel it and I love my community. I will fight vehemently for my community, and I will stand proud and stand tall and fight courageously, contagiously courageously for my community, as are you. And I'm not going to back away from that. So thank you guys all so much for tuning into the Passionate Podcast, where passion is also contagious. So please utilize everything that you have in your heart and souls and believe in this man, our mayor, to continue to support him in what we are doing as a whole for our community of Fresno. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. And we're going to have one more thing. Jerry, look into that camera right there. And I want you to say just a couple words to all of our viewers and listeners to just tell them who you are as our mayor and how excited you are to be in the second term for Fresno, California.
I'm Jerry DYER. I'm your mayor. I believe in Fresno, and I'll do everything I can to make it a better place to live for you, your kids, and your grandkids.
Amen. I believe it. You've heard it here first in the Passion Podcast. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more of these in the future, because I love this man and I want to support this man because he is making Fresno great again. I said it. Love you guys, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Jerry.
Casey.